Hello and welcome to the channel. I am SpeedyGimp313. Guys, I'm really excited to bring you this video. After much time and much waiting, we are finally going to do our first performance upgrade to Deadpool. I'm going to show you the install process of the part we picked up. Then I'm also going to take the car to Huck's Automotive Performance. We're going to throw the car on the dyno and see the increase in horsepower that this modification actually gives us. I do need to preface this by saying I had planned on doing a base run on the Camaro, but due to some things that happened, I actually cracked the stock air box, which kind of gives away what the mod is going to be. So I'm not going to be able to do a stock run, but we're going to use the numbers that GM gives us to assume the baseline for the car. GM claims that the 2015 V6 Camaro makes 325 horsepower at the crank. Now, assuming a 15% loss by the time the power travels through the drivetrain, we're going to be sitting at around 276 horsepower to the tires. So I'm interested to see what this modification will do once it's installed on the car and to see how much further above that bench line that we actually get. So I'm going to head to the shop so we can work on it, and you guys will see that in just a second. Okay guys, so we finally made it to the shop, and I'm going to kind of give a reveal as best I can. What we have ordered for Deadpool the Camaro is a Cold Air Induction kit from Cold Air Inductions. After doing my research, this is the best product for the V6 Camaro, just because of some of the little extra things they do to make this intake extra effective. So as you can probably tell, I've already opened the box. If you were down, man. Okay guys, so this is the kit laid out as best I can. As you see, we have both of our intake tubes, some mounting clamps, the cone-shaped filter. Looks to be fairly simple install. Doesn't seem to be a whole lot to it as far as individual parts. Okay guys, so the first step in the process of installing the intake is disconnecting the battery, which on the 2015 Camaro is located in the trunk. So that's actually what we're doing now. So the next step in the process is going to be to remove this cover. It's very simple. You simply remove your oil fill cap, which mine is extremely tight. And then you simply lift up on the cover, and it comes loose, and you move it out of the way. I would also recommend reinstalling the oil cap so that nothing falls down in there while you're working on the vehicle. Okay guys, the next step in the process is to disconnect the hose, which is known as the crankcase breather hose. So as you can see, we've already done that. That's a very simple process. It literally slides on and slides off. Okay guys, so the next step in the process is going to be to remove this hose right here. So I'm going to go ahead and do that, and it's very simple. Just use a flathead screwdriver and release this clamp. Okay, and the next step is going to be to disconnect this sensor right here. It's very easy. You just release that little lock, Okay guys, a little trick to this: when you release this red lock, there's a little button right underneath it. Press it and pull at the same time and it comes off very easily. Our next step in the process is going to be to remove these 10mm bolts holding the air intake box on the car. And just a tip guys, the instructions indicate that you're going to want to keep these bolts to use in the install of the new cold air intake, so make sure if you're doing this to your vehicle that you do not lose these bolts. Guys, the old intake is out. We've got to remove the airflow sensor, so we're going to use a T20 Torx bit and remove that. Be very delicate with those as they are very sensitive. We're also going to take this opportunity while we have the intake off to clean the mass airflow sensor. Okay guys, so we've cleaned the mass airflow sensor at this point, and it's as simple as spraying mass airflow sensor cleaner down in there, and it dries very quickly. You do not want to use anything other than mass airflow sensor cleaner, as it will damage this sensor. Okay guys, so our next step, now that we've let the mass airflow sensor dry, is we're going to install the mass airflow sensor into the intake tube. And again, be very delicate with this. You just simply place it in there and you take the bolts that were provided.
What I did forget to mention during this clip is that there is a particular direction that the mass airflow sensor must be facing to work properly. If you look closely at your mass airflow sensor when you reinstall it, there's actually an arrow indicating which way the air needs to be flowing into the filter and through the intake tube into the motor. So if you do this installation to your vehicle, make sure to pay attention to your mass airflow sensor so you install it facing the correct direction.
Okay guys, as you can see, we've completed the next step and actually gotten the box or the insulated housing for the filter element installed. And it was very simple. It was as simple as sliding it into place and lining it up with the threaded bolt sticking up to secure it into place. Okay guys, so the next step I'm going to do is work on bolting down the filter housing, and I'm going to leave it loose just in case we need to make some adjustments for the final fitment until we complete it, and then I'll go back and torque everything down.
Okay, so one thing I forgot to show was installing the filter into the intake housing, as well as installing the intake tube on the outside of the housing running back towards the throttle body. So I'm going to insert a clip of that here. It's not a very detailed process. The housing slides in place. You use the existing bolts and nuts that you kept when you removed the original intake, bolt it down, compress the filter and the intake tube together between the intake housing, and tighten the hose clamps to secure it.
It actually provides a new rubber tube to replace the original, because the original has a slight curve to it, whereas with the intake tube on this one, you no longer need that curve. Okay guys, as you can see, we reinstalled the crankcase breather tube and reinstalled the air sensor right behind the filter. Our last step is going to be to remove the covering from the housing, the lid to the housing. They actually put a protective cover over it to protect it while shipping. So we're going to remove that and install it. Okay guys, so this is the finished product of the Cold Air Inductions cold air intake. We're going to finish buttoning everything up. By that I mean we're going to reconnect the battery, put everything back in the trunk, and then the next segment we're going to jump in the car and go for a little test ride just to see how the car performs now that it's installed. Okay guys, we're finally out of the subdivision, so here we go. Oh yeah, you can definitely hear it more. Definitely more of a, not a growl, but a more visceral and aggressive sound on the intake. The acceleration is a lot smoother than it was with the factory intake. And I do have to play it kind of cautiously because it is raining and the roads are extremely wet. But yeah, guys, you can definitely feel a difference in the acceleration. It is much, much smoother than it was before. Oh yeah, guys, this is amazing. Props to Cold Air Inductions. You guys build an amazing intake. Okay, guys, so today is the day we are actually headed to Huck's Automotive Performance, and we're going to put Deadpool, the Camaro, on the dyno and find out just how much horsepower it makes. Again, we are assuming that using the GM factory numbers that the 2015 V6 Camaro makes 325 horsepower at the crank. So roughly that would translate to 276 horsepower to the tires, assuming a 15% loss by the time it travels through the powertrain. So I'm going to let you guys skip the trip because we're still about 2 hours away. So I'm going to let you guys skip the travel, and I'll see you guys at the shop in just a second.
When you dream, do you see beautiful rays of light shimmering, guiding you through the night? I know it feels like the night's getting longer and light is harder to find. I promise I'll always be there, I'll remind you when you close your eyes. If they send for me tomorrow, even if I leave right now, you'll find comfort there in knowing whenever in doubt, you can find me when the lights turn out. When the lights turn out. Hundreds of miles away, I can see you and me like it was yesterday. I know it's not the same, but I'm still behind you every step of the way. Look in yourself and I'll be there, I can guide you. All the love is the same. If they send for me tomorrow, even if I leave right now, you'll find
way awesome. I don't know.
Okay guys, so as you saw in the earlier clip on the dyno run, the car did not make as much power as I estimated. I don't know if that's because maybe GM wasn't honest about the numbers. There are some other factors that could be playing into it as well, as far as like the ambient temperature, the relative humidity. There are a lot of different factors that could contribute to the lower horsepower number. But anyway, the car made what it made. I believe it was around 272 horsepower to the tires. So we'll call that our baseline, and that's what we're going to start with on this build. And hopefully we'll, I have plans in the works to do other things to get us well above that. Don't know an exact number where we're going to end up, but I'm hoping somewhere around the ballpark of around 400 conservatively. And as I record this, I've actually already ordered our next mod, which will be coming in a future upload. The other factor that may have played into it as well is I don't know if it shows up on the video how well you can see it, but we were actually hitting the speed limiter that comes on the car from the factory as well. So that could also play a slight factor in the horsepower rating that we were getting. I do plan on at some point having someone actually tune the car, tune the ECU on the car, as well as remove or definitely bump up the speed limiter that is currently on the car. But I'll let you guys know on social media, as well as possibly in a video, when I actually do that modification. Guys, before I close out this video, I want to take just a moment to give a big thanks to everyone at Huck's Automotive Performance. They're a great shop. They've been very helpful to me, and they've built some amazing rides that you've seen in some of my other videos. And they also put on a great event that you've seen me film multiple times, Boostin' Barbecue. If you're ever in the area, be sure to come by and check it out. Most likely I will be there filming as well. So if you do come to the event, be sure to stop by and say, hey, let me know you've seen the videos. Anyway guys, that's going to do it for this entry. If you enjoyed the entry, be sure to hit the thumbs up button. As always, links to all of my social media will be in the description. Thanks for watching and have a great night.